So my name's Jemma Collova. I started my PhD at UWA in the School of Psychology in 2016 and I finished it in 2020. So my PhD's led me to a range of different work. So at the end of my PhD I actually completed an internship with the Department of Industry, Innovation and Science in Canberra. So I got to travel to Canberra and work there as part of the Innovation Metrics Review. And that was part of an interdisciplinary team where we were working on a way that we could measure innovation in Australia. So it was quite an abstract sort of project. And I got to work with the Chief Scientist of Australia, which was really cool. And it really got my interest in doing applied research. So following my PhD, I really love research as well, so I continued on in a research position looking at how children develop social biases, but I still had that underlying interest to do more applied work and to see how data could inform real world decisions. So I ended up working with WA Police as a business analyst for a year, and there I got to kind of collate data and analyse data for WA Police. And also do some pretty cool visualization techniques where we worked on making apps for police so that they could kind of collate all their large data sets. So yeah, my PhD's kind of led to a range of different experiences afterwards. So I'm currently a research associate, which is like a postdoc really, in the School of Indigenous Studies. So doing research, looking at how we can improve cultural safety for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So my interest in research and in psychology has kind of meant that I've gravitated back into the research space again, but the research I'm doing now is quite applied and it's got quite a bit of policy influence, which is interesting for me. So I didn't really know much about psychology, broadly speaking, until I started at university, and I just took a degree in undergrad, and I guess that's when it kind of really captured my interest in just trying to understand how people think and why people behave the ways that they do. So yeah, just that kind of natural interest drew me in, and then I kind of gradually just stayed along for the whole ride and ended up, you know, however many years later, still in psychology and still really interested in all the things that you can learn from psychology. So I didn't really know much about what a PhD was before my studies at UWA, but I did my honours degree in the School of Psychology, and that gave me a bit of a taste for what it was like to do research, and it really captured my attention. So I decided to do the PhD just to get to explore that research a bit further. So during my PhD, I did an internship in Canberra as part of the APR internship program. So I got to relocate to Canberra for four or 5 months, I think it was, and work as part of the Innovation Metrics Review Task Force. So this was an interdisciplinary team that was working on a project looking at how we can measure innovation across Australia. And I got to work with the Chief Scientist of Australia, as well as a range of people with varied backgrounds in the team. So lots of people had PhDs, some were in chemistry, some were in physics. So it was really nice to see how a team with such a varied background could work together on a project that wasn't really specific to anyone's background. So yeah, I really enjoyed that experience because it really let me see how the skills that I gained through the PhD could transfer into government or industry work. Yeah, so I think all the experience I gained throughout the PhD really prepared me for a range of opportunities post-PhD, but I think you've got to kind of think differently about how we're prepared as PhD students, because the skills that you gain don't necessarily easily map onto a specific job. So you've kind of got to reflect on the skills that you've gained and how you can transfer them to a range of different jobs. But I definitely feel like, from my experience, you know, the critical thinking, working in teams, managing projects, all of those skills are really appreciated when I went to look for work outside of the research within a university space. think studying in psychology, you really learn how to critically think about things, and I think that's a skill that you can kind of take into any job that you go to afterwards. And I guess in my specific experience as well, I really learnt how we can use both qualitative and quantitative data together to answer really interesting questions, and that's experience that I gained throughout my PhD, but also in the internship that I got to do during the PhD, because when I was working for government, they were really focused on that qualitative data as well. So just, yeah, it was interesting to see how we can use these different datas together to answer important questions. I don't know if I would change anything specifically, but I think I would just talk to more people about their different experiences and try to understand their paths and where they got to and what decisions they made and why. I think the more people you talk to, the better, and it just helps you kind of navigate your own path and figure out where you might want to end up. So I'm really passionate about engaging girls and females in STEM. So throughout my PhD and also afterwards, I've gravitated towards mentoring roles, I guess, and some of those have been formal mentoring positions, and some have been informal kind of relationships that I've built. So I really love just talking to other more junior people about, you know, where they are in their career and their interests, and just trying to help them navigate that space as well. I think the most challenging thing for me is just the uncertainty of not knowing what am I going to do next, where is this going to take me, and just worrying about those future steps. So yeah, I think everyone has different levels of how much, you know, uncertainty they can take, but for me, yeah, that kind of was always in the back of my mind throughout the PhD. I wish that I had known that it doesn't matter not to know where you're going, and it's kind of okay just to go with the flow and follow your interests and just end up wherever they take you. So yeah, I guess it's important to know that if you just follow what you're interested in, that will open doors, and try not to get too caught up in stressing about what's going to be the next step. So as I mentioned earlier, I had no idea what a PhD was when I was younger, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So it was probably not something that I specifically dreamt of doing, but I was always interested in science and applying knowledge to answer, and using data to answer, I guess, applied questions. So yeah, I think in that sense, it aligned with what I was interested in, but because I had no idea what a PhD or research was, it wasn't really something that I specifically set out to achieve when I was younger. I think it's just really important to follow what you're interested in, talk to people who have careers or that next step ahead of you, to find out what their experience has been like. And yeah, just try to open as many doors as you can, because you never know what might happen in the future, and just the more connections you make and the more paths you kind of investigate, the better, yeah, you'll just be in a better position to make a more informed choice about your career. So I'm still pretty open in terms of where I'll be in 5 years and where my career would take me. I'd really love to be continuing in a research position and working on applied projects in kind of a social justice sort of area. But yeah, I'm pretty open as to where it will go, and I'm still even now just trying to figure out, you know, which doors do I want to keep following and which doors am I not really interested in.